Well then, how is everybody today? Welcome to the Kino Corner, where we talk about the best in news, trailers, and movies from a certain point of view. Well, this one's going to be a little bit different. I am by myself. I had a guest lined up. There's kind of been a little bit of hiccup. No reply, last minute hoopla, but that's okay. After a few weeks of heavy hitters, this theme is going to be more uh I guess I'm not as strongly opinionated on movie musicals as I would be on something like 80s horror. Yeah. Yes, go me. Spread the word that I am awesome. You know, like things happen, but like one of my commitments is I'm sticking to this bi-weekly schedule, do or die. Like if it's by myself with a guest, cool. Sometimes I'd like to have a guest every time. Sometimes it don't work out that way. But that's okay. That's why we here. Uh, as such, there are a few things to go into, and I'd like to jump into things first and foremost with a bit of movie news. As is the standard for whenever something happens as movie news, there's often a certain passing or something happens that I want to take care of first. Likely these don't match in tone with some of the stuff we want to talk about later. So, because obviously later we're going to talk about musicals, and yeah, I can't exactly go from, oh, this person died to, yay, happy. No, it just doesn't work. So, out of respect for the person, out of respect for the work that they've done, I'd like to start by doing a brief homage to David Lynch. This one came out very recently. A lot of people know of David Lynch. Y'all stop patronizing me. I'm trying to be serious here. No, no, but um, David. Most people know David Lynch. When I first got the announcement, I knew the name. I wasn't immediately familiar with everything he had done, but everyone referred to it as like, "Oh, he's the guy who did Twin Peaks." And to be perfectly frank, never watched it. Never watched Twin Peaks or anything. It's to the point I don't even know if it's a movie or a show. Or maybe it's a restaurant. Who knows? But it seems to have some level of cultural impact that just went over my head. However, when looking over his filmography, there is one movie that I do know of, and I think it's a huge reason why his films are so well, his name, I should say, is well known. That is Eraserhead. If you've seen the movie Eraserhead, then you kind of understand David Lynch's style. He's a very eclectic director, very eclectic writer. He always has a point he wants to make. He always has to do it in a very interesting way, even if it's down to like fucked up visuals or fucked up storytelling, and I can respect that. He clearly made an impact, even though I'm not as familiar as most people. I think it's fair to credit where credit is due. So, to share a moment of silence for losing a great filmmaker. All right, but now, in order to move on, because we got a lot of other bits of news to talk about. Truth be told, there's not a lot of trailers to talk about, but there is some news. And it's going to be a little all over the place. So, might as well start with the first bit. For those watching, you can tell from the thumbnail, there is going to be purportedly confirm pull up what I have here. There we go. There's going to be a new sequel for the Labyrinth. For if those who grew up with the movie like I did, you know that this is kind of like a why would you do that kind of news. To be fair, Robert Eggers is a very, very interesting choice, which tells me that this is going to be a darker take. I don't know if the Jim Henson Company, if that their studio is going to be part of this, but for those who don't know Robert Eggers, he has been blowing up recently with some very, very, very well received movies. The most recent being Nosferatu, but he also did like The Northman, The Lighthouse, The Witch. Like he's done very surreal horror experiences, and that's kind of where I'm confused. As messed up as The Labyrinth was, it was a fantasy movie. It was a fantasy adventure. So it in one way, I have like putting this darker spin on it could work. But then it goes back to if you're going to put this kind of horror spin on it, like why remake something or make a sequel to something when you could just make something new? It feels most of this is just we're basing it off of what this director has done. That's all we can base it off of. But we can't know for sure what's going to come from this until we see a trailer and maybe get some more information about like who's involved, who's casted into it. It's still unclear. Like there's a few rumors popping around about who's doing what. It's still unclear who is actively involved in this movie because all we know about the sequel is that it has a director and it's greenlit. That's it. That's confirmed. That's it. So I'm not going to be excited for this. If anything, I'm going to be very wary about this because I like the movie a lot, and this director choice seems to not fit. But anything can work. So I'd like to know y'all's thoughts about this as well. Feel free to pop in the chat if you have any thoughts about this. But if for this particular thing, I'm mostly wary. I guess I'd want it to work, but it's gonna need to convince me. If and when we get a trailer for this, obviously we'll probably bring this up again. Like there's a few bits of news that I opted not to talk about for other things, mostly because it doesn't seem to be relevant. Well, no, it's relevant. It's just we have such bare bones information. This was one that I almost didn't talk about, and it is solely because we have very little information, but that's carried more so by the labyrinth name. Like the labyrinth is a very important movie to a lot of people. It is a lot of people grew up with this movie. A lot of people did. So there's a lot riding on if this movie to be good. There's a lot of expectation of what this could be versus other like, oh, this guy's making like there's a lot of news about like, oh, this person's making a new movie. Great. This one, but this is a remake. Makes it interesting that honest or not rather no sorry not a remake a sequel. It creates an interesting parallel, I guess, where I personally prefer if people did more unique things. However, for a movie we'll talk about later in new and recent films, tying it to pre-existing IPs or pre-existing movies is well, that's what gets people to the seats. That's what gets people talking. If you've never seen The Labyrinth, it's on Tubi. It's actually that's on Disney Plus and Hulu. Very good movie. You get to see David Bowie's cock. Yeah, I'm going to say that on Twitch. This is not made for kids. I don't care. If I have to censor it when I upload it to YouTube, I will. But no, the biggest joke about the movie is David Bowie wears skin tight pants, and there was a lot of just interesting back and forth between the director and David Bowie on like because it was very much discovered later on that David Bowie wearing like the skin tight pants in the labyrinth was an intentional choice. But no, it's a very very fun movie. If not a little creepy sometimes, but hey. The next piece of news we're talking about to go into those pants are scary. They are, Lex. But the next piece of news to go into a little bit. This one, I am I'm wary about the labyrinth thing, but I'm willing to see where that goes. This one, I am extra wary, and they're gonna have to work double hard to convince me either of these are a good idea. We don't know if they're sequels. We don't know if they're remakes. We don't know anything about them. But Warner Brothers says like, "Hey, we're gonna make new Gremlins and Goonies movies." Goonies is one thing, and with the advent of Stranger Things, I feel like Goonies up between the two has a better chance of working. The whole reason for that is because there is a Gremlins animated show out. For those who don't know, I'll spare you the trouble. It's dumb. It has some good moments, but it doesn't fit anywhere. It actually kind of messes up a lot of lore in the Gremlins movies and makes everything feel, I don't know, pointless. I guess pointless. You're right, Lex. Goonies is a classic, but I'm only here. I'm the messenger. This is now a fact that these are movies that are in the works from Warner Brothers. They're going just when Sony decided like, oh, we're going to start doing video game movies. We're going to go ham with that. Warner Brothers like, all right, let's Gremlins and Goonies. I think if anything, Goonies is like a few years too late. I think the best time to capitalize on Goonies was at the height of the Stranger Things stuff because let's be real, Goonies is basically Stranger Things for our generation. Stranger Things is the modern Goonies. They're very different, but in just the broad overall scope, that is what they are. Like it's what it means to them is what Goonies means to us. So if they want to like remake Goonies or just do it like a 4K remaster, which I think would have been a better choice, the Stranger Things time would have been the time to do it. So I don't know. For Goonies, it seems too late. Seems like a bad idea. Like why would you touch it now? Some don't make sense here, and we don't even know. Again, we don't know if these are sequels. We don't know if they're remakes. We don't know what they are. Between the two, I'm more in. I guess I feel like I'm more open to Goonies because unlike other remakes, it has been decades. Assuming they don't immediately cancel the tax write-offs. That is something they could do too, and honestly, they need to make money. I guess I don't fuck it. There's a lot of shit going on. I'm not gonna get political, but pardon me, I have water. I hope if they make these are good. Goonies I'm over to Gremlins. I'm not because there's like a show called Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai. This animated show. It goes into such a high fantasy like aspect. It almost kind of like just spits in the face of the original movie. It's like, oh, but these gremlins were always spiritual demons, you see, with ties to the spirit world and shit. Like, no. Well, well, technically, yes, 'cause that's what the old guy said, maybe, but like, there was a lot more spiritual shit going on in the show and just, well, the magic that the gremlins could do versus the simplicity of the movie. It just made it just confused everything. And if that's what they're gonna do with the Gremlins in the animated space, I love Gremlins. I love Gremlins too. Considering their recent iterations, I have zero faith that anything they could do with Gremlins now could be worth it. So that's why they're gonna have to work freaking triple time to convince. Like I know at least for me, they have to work triple time to convince me this is a good idea. Like I mean, again, back on my mind, I want this to work. There's a part of me that wants this to work because I love Gremlins. I want all movies that come out to be good, but there's a reality here. Reality is that maybe some remakes, maybe some sequels, maybe just pulling nostalgia bait for the sake of nostalgia bait sometimes is a bad idea. But that's neither here nor there. That's a discussion that it was part of a broader discussion for another time. Move on to the next piece of news. Okay, this one's more happy. This is a show that I'm only bringing it up because I'm a fan. It is like the One Piece live action stuff. Like there was some One Piece live action news, but I didn't want to bore people with cast announcements of actors that people didn't hear of. So brief fitting One Piece more cast was revealed for season 3, which is happening. Which I'll talk more about that when season 2 comes out. But no, what this is, there is a manhwa or Korean visual novel, basically Korean manga. It is called Solo Leveling. Very, very good series. Very good manual. And it's getting a live action. I am excited for this, but I'm also wary mostly because live action anime, even with like I consider like One Piece and Rurouni Kenshin to me are like good ones. It is hard to capture anime in live action inherently. It is almost impossible to do right. If man, if you read One Piece and you think adapting One Piece is gonna was hard and for all of its goofy shit, some of the fight sequences and like just horrific spectacles that happen like not too far into Solo Leveling, they're gonna have to make some choices here. they're they are gonna have to commit to a hard R rating, or they're gonna have to make this look cheap and kid friendly. So like, I am excited, but ooh, I want to see where this goes. And this is just a brief kind of PSA. Main reason I included this: look up Solo Leveling. There's novelizations from almost everywhere in bookstores. You can buy copies of it. You can read it online. Fantastic series, funny series, action packed series. Great way to introduce you to just that world of just Korean uh, visual novels. But yeah, to move on from that. Ah, here's one that I know. I wish Kitty was here for this, but he had to work in clothes. Griffin, you might be interested in this as well. So as you can kind of see, Zach Kreger. Let me pull up his recent filmography here. He is set to work on a Resident Evil movie. Now, there's two notable movies under his belt that are both interesting choices, and I know of both of them, I've only seen one of them. One, which is more fitting to Resident Evil in tone, is Barbarian. If you've seen Barbarian, you know it's a very different type of modern horror movie. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Like, it's not my favorite thing. I don't know. It deals with some topics I personally find just uncomfortable and just don't like dealing with. But it's a pretty good movie, and some of the designs he let kind of fly with a not grotesque horror movie. He's like, okay, like going off of Barbarian, I think he might have something here, especially if he is starting from zero and doing some of just original Resident Evil stuff. But we'll see. The other movie that I'm just raising an eyebrow for, and if you haven't recognized this guy's face yet, is a movie called Miss March. It is a very funny movie, but for if you don't know what that is, you might know he did a show on YouTube for a while, or was part of a group that was, I believe, on cable somewhere. I have to look the details. I don't know the exact history of this group, but I just know they were the funnies. This group called the Whitest Kids You Know. Very funny group, and they were, yeah, they were a comedy group, and they made a movie about called Miss March, where basically a guy is about to lose his virginity to a porn star, or not a porn star, to his high school sweetheart. Something happens, he goes into a coma. He wakes up from the coma, and his innocent high school sweetheart is now a Playboy bunny, and he keeps misinterpreting it as just him being her being in porn, and just has this big betrayal. It's just, oh, you're supposed to be mine. It's like all this shit. It's a very fucked up but very funny movie that also honestly has one of, because I don't know the tone of Resident Evil, but I know from Barbarian and Miss March, like when I try to like where is the overlap in these movies? There is a very weird overlap. The guy has a weird tendency to sneak in some legitimately good moral like moments and good life advice and just all these wholesome moments within just horrible or fucked up situations. Like there's very small moments in Barbarian, very small, mostly in the beginning, but they're still there. And like there are some quotes where I'm like, damn, that's actually some good fucking life advice. But like the one in Miss March that came out of fucking nowhere. It led to a big laugh for me in that movie. I know there's a Resident Evil movie talking about more about Miss March, but I have to mention it. Is there's a scene where, like, right at the beginning, he's talking about he's going with this girl, losing virginity, his friend, because they're in college. He's trying to hype up and do all this stuff, like all this stuff. He's being a bro. The main character's like, dude, take this seriously. I really like this girl. And to like hype him up is like, dude, you're about to lose your virginity. You're about to be the luckiest guy on earth. You're about to lose your virginity to someone who not only you love, but loves you back. That is very special, and you don't need to fear anything. I'm like, damn, man. Considering the previous attempts at adapting Resident Evil, this is my thing where I'm going to need a lot of convincing. Yeah, like I know this guy's previous works, and the two main movies in his repertoire. One I like, I think it's an underrated comedy, and one that it's not for me, but I acknowledge is good. He could do it, but I don't know how Resident Evil fans think about it, because I know Resident Evil is more of the horror side. So I think analyzing how he did Barbarian might be the more accurate. Like, how is he going to do with Resident Evil? It's just it when I was looking this up, like this, I was like, this guy looks familiar, and things just kind of clicked. Uh, like everything. Now there, he does claim because other people have claimed this in a recent interview. He wants to keep the adaptation as faithful to the games as possible. And the general internet response to that is, "I'll believe it when I see it." So, which that's fair, but so yeah, to me, this is funny. Could be interesting. I mean, I'm kind of whatever on Resident Evil, so but I'm interested in what people who have played those games, who know that stuff, what they feel about it. But we shall see. I don't know if life advice and just like random bits of wholesome moments are norm for Resident Evil, but we'll see. We'll see. I guess, but that's pretty much all the news. This, outside of being that little extra bit of Sprague news, this was a very light bit of 2 weeks, all things considered. Let's see. Resident Evil is basically the tone of a grim, dark B movie. Well, okay. Then yeah, he might do fine. Like, watch Barbarian. Like, use that to judge. But there's two trailers that I think were worth talking about. There's a lot of like independent movie trailers, and I know like if I talk about every movie that has come out or every trailer that's come out, like I already getting close to 2 hours on every freaking thing, and I'm trying to cut time as well. So I try to like pick only the trailers that seem interesting or relevant, either to my interest or like popular culture interests or things that I think, even if they don't appeal to me, find interesting. But even with a week like this, there's really only two that seem worth talking about. Uh, the first one is it's one we saw actually in the theater. It's called Drop. We saw the trailer in the theater. I didn't remember the name when Lex mentioned it to me, but then when I saw like the image, like the trailer we saw replayed in my head. The okay, if you are like hyped for this movie, you're gonna hate me. So this is very much a trailer that like it looks interesting. It looks tense as fuck. I mean, the actors can't even give it their all. Like again, like they've made a situation that is unbelievably tense. However, I with how many movies I watch and how many trailers I watch, I do start to like pick up patterns. I get excited when I can't predict where something is going, but I start to pick up on normal filming techniques and story techniques. And I start to like I really pick apart things in a weird way. My recently discovered that I don't necessarily need a movie to make sense in our reality. I need it to make sense in its own reality. That being said, when I watched this trailer, at first, very good thing. Woman's going on this first date. She's basically getting like dropped these messages. Things are getting hidden. It says like, "Hey, I'm gonna." Basically, this killer is gonna like kill her family and just ruin her life if she doesn't kill her date. And there's like images in the trailer about like why this could happen. There's some international bullshit. Like they're trying to make this as inconspicuous as possible and put her under the bus. Here's the problem I have with this. If these people want him dead and are gonna go so far as to hijack a whole building, two whole buildings, and her phone to make it happen, my thought is, well, what's stopping them from just shooting him? What's stopping them from just hiring an assassin? And that tells me there's going to be a twist in this movie. And it's going to be one of two twists. Either she's also guilty of something, and they are basically killing two birds with one stone, or the more fucked up option, and I'm kind of hoping this is the case, is if this is orchestrated by the date as a weird extra fucked up test to test like is this person like faithful and true, because it's one of those things where once you pick apart like look at it from an outsider perspective like well that doesn't make sense, why would they do that, and then I don't know. Maybe I'm the asshole here, but like I saw this movie trailer, I was like, "Oh, that looks tense as fuck. Maybe it could be fun." But then I watched it again and I started to pick apart a few details. Like I said, if you're hyped for this movie, I don't blame you. Like there's nothing in this trailer that looks bad. It's just the way I look at movies. I look at the overall scenario of a drop, and I then just see I just pick apart like, well, why would if they could do this, why not just do this? Like I'm like trying to like figure out the logistics of like the crimes these people are committing. It's like, well, why get charged for all these felonies when they could just hire an assassin? I don't know. I'm probably overthinking, if I'm being honest. And I don't want to undersell like this looks well acted. Like this, the trailer does sell the atmosphere and tension very well. Like jokes aside, because just the image of her like putting like they'll turn on your nanny cam or whatever, and she's scrolling through cameras and she just see like a dude in a mask holding up a gun and like a sign that says like damn okay that's fine, but like I don't know there's I'm not gonna go so far as to predict what the twist is, but this is like it's very Shyamalan, where this trailer to me has all but guaranteed there's going to be a twist, and because there has to be a twist to make sense, and if you have to have a twist to make sense, it's not good. The twist is like the twist is I don't that's part of a larger conversation, but not drop. It looks good. It looks very tense. It might not be for me, but if it's for you, definitely go see it. Looks fun. I'm also an overthinker, so if you think I'm an asshole, you're right. No. Now, the second trailer I have a lot of words on. I have a lot of thoughts on the Until Dawn trailer. So, I didn't realize I knew we just talked about the announcement not too long ago. We got a straight up trailer. I I have seen people and to an extent played some of those games like Until Dawn and all the other games in the like Dark Anthology or whatever that series was. I need to look at this. There was like the one in the ship, but Until Dawn was a very well crafted game. I think the branching paths and how precise you had to do everything and like every choice, even down to the timing, mattered. Like making a non-choice might be the right choice sometimes, or it could lead to just a complete death of everyone. Like the choice system in those games was crafted very well. And for those who don't know, who haven't played Until Dawn, I am going to spoil the game because the game has been out for years. When did Until Dawn the game come out? Let's see. Dawn game. 2015. It is literally a decade. Literally a decade. Man of Medan. Yeah, Man of Medan. That's another one, I guess. But so the I'm not gonna spoil key's twists in the game, but I'm going to spoil the overall plot. Basically, sister goes missing on a mountain. Some time passes. And again, these are cliff notes. I'm going to spoil it, but I'm going to do some cliff notes. I'm going to be leaving out some very important information. Yeah, sister goes missing on a snowy mountainside. A few years later, or rather, die. The whole opening shot is is something that these people like to do, where it's almost pointless what happens in the beginning, almost. But basically, these people die. There's something going on here. There is a killer on like there's something potentially a killer going on the mountain. Years later, these people go up to that same mountain. Um, One of them had to be convinced because people died. I'm not going to mention why it was specifically into them, but long story short, there is a killer. Simple story, more complicated. Yeah, the killer wasn't the only problem, or there may not have been a killer at all, at least from the beginning. This is a story about a Wendigo, a very fucked up looking Wendigo, but a cannibal Wendigo. And yeah, I'm not. That's the most I'm going to spoil because who lives, who dies, who like where the Wendigo came from, who like what's going on with that. That's worth this tale. That being said, this movie has nothing to do with that. I The only relation this movie has with the game is the killer in the movie has the same mask as the killer in the game. Literally everything else has nothing to do with the game. Truth be told, in a fucked up way when I saw this, I was like, so they made the perfect Dead by Daylight movie and called it Until Dawn. Because the premise is almost perfect for Dead by Daylight. Basically, these people go to this lone area in the woods, if you things and whatnot, and um, basically time resets at dawn. Like they'll die, but then they'll wake up at dawn on the same day, and they have to basically get out. But every time go through the day, there seems to be a different threat. There seems to be a different monster or something going on outside. Awesome concept. It really is like a weird mesh of Cabin in the Woods and Dead by Daylight. And plus, they get to show off some kick-ass creature designs. Like in the trailer, like some of the killers, and like there's like a big freaking storm kaiju looking thing. Like some of those designs look awesome. And this movie looks like it's legitimately dreadful and scary. What does this have to do with Until Dawn? Like other than the fact that like Dawn itself is the the time, or rather the time it resets to. And it's not so much as like, oh, it's just a coincidence. This has more to do with the movie. Again, the mask they used and the whole like initial setup of going to the cabin, it starts out for like the first like maybe 30 seconds of the trailer. You're thinking, oh, okay, this really is starting like it's the Until Dawn game. I can't wait to see what the Wendigo looks like. I think the Wendigo is there. There's one thing I might be, I can't tell. But then it just goes balls to the wall and things immediately turn different. It's odd to me. Like, you can't say this wasn't inspired by the game because the directors are saying it's inspired by the game. There's pulling direct assets and like some like even settings from the game. It, to me, this is like making a new Sonic movie where the whole premise is basically Sonic has to save people in an underground research lab. It feels weird, right? It's like, why does it? Sure, that could technically happen, but like, what does this have to do with the games? Like, this sounds like something that'd just be cooler from an if it was just tied to another original IP. Like, if this does not bode well, if this is what somebody's going to make video game movies, like, I still want to see it. But if the general tone that but this trailer, the vibe it gives me is they had an idea for a unique horror movie that, again, like I pulled a little bit from Cabin in the Woods, Dead by Daylight, just a mishmash of horror, and some of the modern A24 films even it had like that weird mishmash. Looks very good, but they're like, how can we make this a video game movie? Time resets at dawn. Until Dawn, and they just kind of like tweaked the beginning and just shoehorned the video game in there, and that's what the trailer seems like. And if that's what they're doing, I have zero faith in any of the video game movies Sony makes because they're misunderstanding what makes video game movies great. I'm interested in this movie, but not as a video game movie. I'm interested in this movie as a mishmash of horror. Like, it has nothing to do with any appreciation I have for the games. And I wouldn't be surprised if the movie fails because of it. Because, but time will tell. Those are just my thoughts. I implore anyone watching, like, go see the trailer, think for yourself. It's worth discussion. But well, go from there. But before I go on to the main event, I'll just ramble on about musicals for a bit. New and recent films. Um, not much of the new and recent category. I was able to go recently see the Wolf Man with Griffin. So he there's a lot to say about this movie. It is very good in my opinion. I went in there with low expectations because there was some marketing that showed a Wolfman design that was poor to say the least. But once I got to see the full Wolfman design, It is not my favorite Wolfman design. Honestly, the Benicio del Toro Wolfman might still be my favorite, which is a high bar. But it's not, it's in that same vein where it is more diseased half man, half wolf than a full on hairy man transformation. But I like this better because of the smaller details. And they do the main guy. I'm not going to say what happens to, or like to him at the end, or what happens, like why he's transforming, or like what's going on. But I appreciate this more, and why he looks more. I guess like he has like freaking scabies or some shit. Is because the tone, the whole tone of the movie, how everything is laid out, it is made very clear he is in the middle of his transformation. Like that's what the movie is. Bad shit happens. He is getting sick, and before it fully takes hold, that's when the ending happens. Like he wants just like things have to change. He has to like do some shit. Like that is the premise. Like that is everything. If anything, if you want to judge the design of the werewolf, you like no, I don't want to spoil that. Like they're you know from the trailer that something scratches him, and that like he turns it to, well, from the name, something scratches him, he goes through transformation, turns to a wolf man. The other wolf, I'll say, you do so yeah, it's not a spoiler to say that the other one exists. At some point you do get a good look at them, and if you're going to gauge what the design is, you have to base it off of them. They look beastly. They are like when like a claw reached through the door, and I actually saw like claws and hair. I actually had like an audible sigh of relief, just because it's a wolf man. Now some people go into this movie, and I've heard some reviewers say that, oh, it's a great movie, never mind the design, it doesn't matter. It does to a point. Like it has to at least look like the wolf man. Like it, if it doesn't look like a wolf man, instead looks like a hobo with rabies, and that's not really the problem. That'd be like watching a Dracula movie, but when they revealed Dracula, he was a big buff guy with gills. Wouldn't that feel a bit messed up? Wouldn't that feel like, well, this has nothing to do with Dracula? Like, that's not a critique on, that's not whining about special effects. That's an actual critique of the design. Like, it's supposed to be Wolf Man, not complicated. And when I look at the full transformation in this movie, that looks like a wolf man. It's a more minimalist, for sure, but it's a wolf man, and I appreciate that. And but that being said, like as much as it's not my favorite Wolfman design, and I do like the movie. I'm just gonna point at the movie is amazing as far as just acting and composition. Like there is some shots in this movie where you get to see the world through the wolf's perspective. I love those shots. I love those sequences. I love like how many little details there are, because like if you're like me and you know how creatures operate, like how like good old werewolf lore, what they can and can't do, like a lot of little touches, how they like I'm not gonna spoil like what he sees or how he sees things, but like there's a lot of touches into how he saw things that could appeal to not just general movie going audiences, but people who are just big werewolf nerds. I love that. I love stuff like that because it evolves the medium further, because it allows us to look at these monsters in a new way. This is what I want from modern films. Like it's like we don't need you to just take the universal wolf man and just wolf and just kidify him and just some shit. Actually explore an idea. This movie explored an idea. Like what if this was more of a disease and not a curse, and how would it affect the family? What would happen to the person? Let's get personal with it. That's what the this Wolfman movie is. And to that end, it's very good. It's worth a watch. I've heard some people apparently say that they didn't like it as much because it's not scary, but the movie's not really trying to be scary, it's trying to be dreadful. It's not trying to scare you, it's just trying to fill you with the dread of the situation. It is trying to let the whole terror, because it's this is not a long movie, by the way. Because I timed it. This is got to be like right around an hour and a half. Yeah, yeah, hour and 40 minutes. This is not a long movie compared to everything around it. This movie does not overstay its welcome. This movie basically is just like, we know why you're here. Pop in. Here's the situation that you are in with these very few characters. Things are very personal for them and you. Feel their pain, feel their dread, fight through this with them. So you're gonna be happy sometimes. You're gonna be sad sometimes. You're gonna it's not. It's a horror movie, but it's less about just the ooga booga gore aspect of horror. It's more about just the atmospheric dread and the tension with the situation they're in. And I went into this like hoping that it would be better than I thought. It absolutely was. I don't know I haven't 2025 has just started, but so far Wolfman's the bar for me. I know we're 1 month in, but Wolfman is a very strong start, and apparently there's other movies coming out very soon that are going to be potential ones to see, like Companion. I don't want to see Flight Risk. It just looks like every run of the mill action movie with what's his face guy from The Happening that goes, "What? No, I can't think of his name right now." Mark Wahlberg. But there's a lot of superhero movies coming out today, or coming out this year. But like, I want classic IPs to be used in new ways. This movie does that. It's not for everybody. If you see this and you're like, I don't know, that's not for me. You're right. This movie is not for everybody, but it's a very good movie. It is a technically good movie. Like from every aspect of just the technical aspects of the movie, the acting, how it's shot, how efficiently they use their budget. This is a good movie. It's I don't agree with the scoring it's getting on like Rotten Tomatoes or anything. I because it's sitting at a 50%, like a 53% on Rotten Tomatoes, and like a 6 out of 10 on IMDb. No, no, to me, this is a 7.5. This is like this is a movie that I would buy and just watch again on Halloween. Just it's not I don't know if it's a staple, but it's one that I appreciate. I do recommend seeing it either in theaters or streaming. And you know what? I think people are going into this movie with the wrong mindset. I think people are thinking they're going to see the Benicio del Toro style Wolfman or something like Werewolf in London, where they're just going to see a big old grotesque wolf transformation, and they're caught off guard by what kind of movie it is. I don't know. If so, but I guess manage your expectations. Go see the Wolfman. It's not like any other werewolf movie. It's more personal than that. It's not about the wolf, it's about the man. Okay, you do disagree with the Rotten Tomatoes, it's like to more than 50%. Yeah, no, 50% is way too low for this movie. It's not a 10 out of 10, God no. I think 7.5, maybe 8 if I'm on a good day, I think is a very fair assessment of this movie. Personally, that's how I feel. But this is the Kino Corner. All of the opinions in the Kino Corner are factually correct. Well, but now, I wish the news and trailers tied more into our main theme because this is going to feel like a tonal fucking whiplash here. The wheel dictates it, and the wheel is never wrong. So we're gonna move on, talk about musicals. Oh, so here's I have an interesting opinion about musicals. I am fi- I agree with something Kitty said at the end of the last podcast. I think that musicals are vastly overhated amongst people who like films. There are so many people who just hate musicals. No, no, it's like you can't like Disney and hate musicals because Disney movies are musicals. Any movie that is just mostly like it has songs driving the plot forward are musicals. It's a broad definition, but that's just how it is. Aladdin's a musical. The Music Man's a musical. Sound of Music are obvious musicals, but like again, you have the Disney movies. Now, that being said, I am fine with musicals. I always take it on a case by case basis. I'm a sucker for good music used well in movies. Like prime example of this would be Shrek 2 or more recently Bullet Train, the holding out for a hero scenes. I love those scenes. I think Griffin was with me at the time when Holding Out for a Hero just started playing in Japanese in Bullet Train. I picked up on it immediately in the background, and I buckled down, and my thought was like, I don't know what's about to happen, but I'm fucking ready. like, like let them used music used well in a movie changes everything. So musicals should I feel like I feel like I should love musicals more than I do, but I don't. It's just a to me they're just another thing and I have to take on a case by case basis. Like there's some musicals I love. I love Little Shop of Horrors. I like Sweetie Todd's a good one. Uh I'm not the biggest fan of Repo the Genetic Opera. I'm glad that kind of went by the wayside. Um I watched a few clips of Music Man, like some of the classics that we grew up in, like elementary, and middle school, like Sound of Music, Music Man, uh, The King and I. They're good. They're not for me. Like the two big ones that are I always seem to go back to are honestly like one yeah, there's two musicals that I will watch in my spare time because I like them. One is Little Shop of Horrors. Like the good music. Like, and I think that's what it is. Like, if you want a musical to be good for me, all of the songs have to be good. All of the songs have to be at least somewhat memorable. And that's probably why Disney got so popular. Because there is a very large stretch of time, probably like 2 decades, where Disney was just banger after banger after banger after banger. I mean, I'm pretty sure I could just start singing any Disney song right now and anyone could finish. I wanna know, can you show me? I wanna know about the strangers. Like, yeah, now that's stuck in your head. Banger after banger after banger. Hakuna Matata. Like, Little Shop of Horrors on your daily play. It's yeah. If you want a musical to be good, you have to put care into every song. So there are some musicals that cheat. I know one. I say they cheat, but the other musical that I will happily go back to, and I feel so weird liking this, but I think I had this weird perfect storm of like interest in childhood that somehow led me down a rabbit hole of just being interested in something that I shouldn't. So growing up, I was into oldies. My mom, whenever her and my dad drove me to school, they played oldies. I would like my brother had a little extra rock. I grew up with like a huge variety of music. Like classic and alternative rock have always been my favorite. But considering what was playing or what was oldies in the '90s, there was a lot of '60s and '70s and stuff. There was a lot of pop. There was a lot of like Diana Ross and shit. There's a lot of Motown. I knew most of these songs. I know they're good. I so when I learned there was a Motown Wizard of Oz called called The Wiz. I had to watch it, and there's some original songs, but but for the most part, like get on down the road. Oh, couple that with star power, feel like freaking Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, like actual like Broadway performers, fucking Richard Perry. Like people know me as the monster guys. Like I love Godzilla, I love Little Shop of Horrors, I love Power Rangers. I also like the Motown Wizard of Oz with Michael Jackson and Diana Ross. And I think I always feel weird saying it, but I do. Now the songs are good in that movie. I say that whenever it's like some movies are kind of cheating. I think The Wiz is one of them because the songs they use in that movie already, for the most part, already existed. So it was more of a matter of writing words to them or like connecting them in a way or writing a script around it. Like they had the puzzle pieces already, so they actually is easier on the writers to a point. I think the most divisive example of that is actually a movie called Across the Universe. It's not a go-to for me, but I like it because I like the Beatles. Again, oldies, man. Uh, that movie's weird. You're gonna feel if you want to see if you watch Across the Universe. Just two guarantees I can make about that movie. One is you're gonna get some good music because the Beatles make some freaking amazing music. You don't if you don't like the Beatles, get your ears checked. Yes, they were made in the '60s, but they made good music. Like everything was like '60s, '70s where the Beatles were popular. Now they were popular for a while, so actually some of this stuff might have been later than that. Hold on. How long? I'm curious. How long were the Beatles performing? Oh, that's wow! It was just the '60s. I could swear it was just the '70s into the '70s. No, yeah, 6 years. Yeah. The Beatles performed live from okay, so they performed live from 1960 to 1966. Yeah, but there's oh okay. There's been a few like some spy releases after that, but mostly yeah. Yeah, that shows you how timeless and good their music is. So yeah, if you see Across the Universe, first thing guarantee you're gonna like the music because Beatles music is awesome. But the other guarantee is you're gonna feel like you're on drugs because part of it is the whole point of the movie is they try to take it from the whole '70s and that era of just like youthful rebellion, people getting drafted into the military. There is a sequence I think it's one of my favorite in the movie. Theme in the song I want you so bad." But it, yeah, but like that sequence, they kind of spin it so it's like army recruiters basically sizing up people. They're doing "I want you" as they get them ready to ship them off to Vietnam in mass. It's so trippy versus like some later that kind of are I think are metaphors, but they're such obvious metaphors. It's kind of hammering it over the head. Like the for like Strawberry Fields is basically well, let's just say it has a lot more to do with not just painting, but the stuff seen in Vietnam. Mm, I'll leave that at that. Like, but like in general though, even though like musicals, you can go case by case. Like I like Little Shop of Horrors, The Wiz, Sweeney Todd. Uh, I like Across the Universe. The interesting thing about them is no matter what, you have to the songs have to be important. So when you're writing if you're writing a musical, it's I feel like it's almost harder. Obviously, that, but from your description reminds me of Forrest Gump. Across the Universe is nothing like Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump is more just down to earth and just an actual telling of a story. you're gonna get halfway through across the universe and you're probably gonna stop the movie because you know what? I'm gonna Lex, just for you, when I'm gonna find a picture across the universe out of context. I'm gonna find something to send you to show you, like like visually, just a visual to kind of pinpoint why across the universe is not like Forrest Gump, because it is not just an audible thing; it's a visual thing. I'll have to find something. Oh, perfect. It's a style that you can copy image. It's a style. If I were to describe it, it's very clearly tied to the Beatles. Like you could look at this visual and just oh yeah, that's the Beatles. But then but oh, being for the benefit of Mr. Right, there will be a show tonight on trampoline. Yeah, good songs get stuck in my head. That, yeah, no, I can already tell from the text that visual makes you want to watch the movie. Yeah, for those listening, I sent her a picture of that carnival, call it that. That's in one of the scenes where there's like all the blue people that are clearly just people in costumes that really remind me of Beatles' Yellow Submarine, which is another musical. Great fucking movie. And Eddie Izzard being the ringmaster. Great voice on Eddie Izzard, by the way. Yeah, the big blue thing, scary. I can assure you, they're only there briefly. But no, it's hard to go into musicals in depth, but because it really does with musicals, it really does come down to what you're like it's I think it's harder for people to like musicals because it's not just your taste in film that has to match, but also your taste in music. And I know that sounds like, oh, they're gonna be similar enough. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes you could be a metalhead, but you like romantic comedies. I've met people like that. Sometimes your music taste and your film taste don't quite mesh. So, yeah, you better talk about the Disney movie you made me love. Which one did I make you love exactly? Lilo and Stitch. Like Disney's like low hanging fruit because like Encanto. Oh yeah. Well, Lex, I can't talk about Encanto because we don't talk about Bruno. And we don't talk about Bruno, so I can't talk about Encanto. I, I need the time. I'm noticing that like we don't talk about Bruno, no, no, no. We don't talk about Bruno. 7 foot frame deep behind a yeah, no, like it's hard to recommend musicals because yeah, they like I said, so your taste in music, the musical has to match not just your taste in film, but your taste in music. And that I think it's why like the mostly the beloved ones are ones that when you really think about it, don't take themselves too seriously or have a bit of an edge to them. Like one that I haven't talked about yet that I know it like really went on a certain demographic, the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Everyone loves the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm just a transvestite from transsexual trans. Like copyrights. I don't know how far copyright's gonna go. So I'm only gonna, if I start going to random bits of song. I'm I don't fucking know. But like that the hot topic crowd really goes ham for Rocky Horror, to the point where that's just kind of become a cultural staple. Let's do the time warp again. Yeah, and just like with any good musical, all of the songs in that are bangers. All of them. They're great. Like it's I can't recommend a catch-all musical. Like there's one that a lot of people say is good. Like you have Rocky Horror, Sweeney Todd, Little Shop of Horrors, but they also appeal to a particular crowd. So I if someone like likes Fast and the Furious and like just I don't know, disco or something. I don't fucking know. I don't know. People are weird. If someone has like those weird interests, I don't think they'd like Little Shop of Horrors. It all I could say about musicals, even though I can't recommend specifics to people, Sweeney Todd still scares me because of the pie. Oh yeah, it's meant to. But yeah, the I can't recommend specifics, but I would say be open to trying to watch more musicals because what me liking The Wiz has shown me is that sometimes like what you least expect from a musical is something you're gonna end up loving. I love The Wiz. Like I'm listing ones that I love, like The Wiz, Across the Universe. It's not my favorite, like personally, but I do like Sweeney Todd. I love Little Shop of Horrors. I love Rocky Horror Picture Show. I love the Disney movies. Like it, it's just about well, okay. I love most of the Disney movies. There's some musicals that Disney movies where the songs are kind of I forget they have songs in them. But that's a discussion for when I talk about Disney on the whole. Now, if I were to leave you with anything with this podcast, it would be to try watching a musical you never thought you'd like, or never even heard of. If you want to listen to some Beatles and go on a drug trip, watch Across the Universe. You want to watch a talking plant, uh, like with a soothing baritone, watch a Little Shop of Horrors. Want to watch Motown Wizard of Oz? Watch The Wiz. Like there's a musical for everybody. La La Land if you want romance. I've heard, yeah, I might have to watch La La Land. I'm not the biggest romance guy, but I've heard universally that La La Land is like the modern musical, which I I don't know. I'll try it. I'd have to listen to that might be a good thing to do. Listen to the soundtrack, or at least some of the songs in the soundtrack first before going into any musical, and just gonna go from there. No, just like Little Shop of Horrors, Across the Universe, and The Wiz. If I were to recommend three that I think people should give a chance, they're less than normal, but definitely worth a watch. Is yeah, like Across the Universe, Little Shop of Horrors, and The Wiz. They're very weird musicals, very different in terms of what kind of music you're going to get in these, but definitely worth a watch. And yeah, no, if if you're watching this on YouTube, definitely put in the comments like what kind of musicals you'd want to recommend or any that you like. Yeah, Hamilton is so good. Okay, I haven't seen Hamilton, but I know damn well the songs are good. The only reason I'm not going to talk in detail about Hamilton is because it was a Broadway show first, and that is a category that I'm probably going to put on the wheel at some point, and that's going to be the I'm just going to call it Hollywood Broadway, where it's things that have like Broadway stage plays that were televised or slash Broadway shows that became movies, which will there is overlap with musicals, specifically like Sweeney Todd. But I also want to include the weird kind of the weird obsession we had for a few years of like the Christmas story live, like just basically filming a live show, like which they tried to do that briefly for Hamilton, did not work because the was like, no, this is fucking stupid. But I feel the Broadway aspect of it is more interesting to talk about than that, so I'm putting Hamilton aside for now. No, so yeah, go watch yourself some musicals, have a good time because there's a musical for everybody. With how weird and crazy some of the ones I watch are, I'm gonna put a trailer for some of my favorite musicals when I put the playlist on YouTube. In addition to, because there's only two trailers to talk about, so I'm gonna find a few good musicals and throw them in the trailer when this gets uploaded. But so look for that down below. But yeah, thank y'all for watching. Thank y'all for listening in. This is a shorter episode today, but again, this was kind of expected because, well, there's again, news and trailers were kind of light. There wasn't a whole lot to talk about. I don't have another host with me this day, but that's okay. Some days it'll be just me. Some days it'll be someone else. Some days it could be two people playing it by ear. We will still have the Almighty Wheel. Um, I'm gonna leave the guest decides on the wheel this time. No, no, that's not what I want. Yeet. Yeet. Why are you defaulting to this minimize position? There we go. Weird. Oh well. To the almighty wheel. So musicals has been knocked off. In honor of The Wolf Man being a good movie that I watched recently, the wheel this time are replaced with classic Universal monsters. Everything else, of course, we have guilty pleasures, crossovers, what the fuck did I just watch? Hand drawn Disney, based on a true story, and sequels. Since since I am the only one here today, if it lands on the guest decides, I am going to choose what the next topic is. It is my choice. I get free reign because there is no guest today. But we shall see. Let us spin the wheel. Hey! Sequels. All right. Okay. Okay. The good, the bad, and everything in between. Oh boy. That's definitely oh man. That actually is fairly fitting for some of the announcements we've been getting as of late for movies that are getting sequels and everything. That could be a long one. That could be a long one. But we shall see. We shall see. We'll see if I'm joined by anybody next time I'm on. Of course, the next episode 2 weeks from today. I try to upload this to YouTube earlier than the day of, like the last episode on YouTube today. But very often, because of my schedule at work and other such places, I get distracted. But I'm so sometime between now and the 9th of February, this will be on YouTube. But on the 9th, we'll be, at least I, will be talking about sequels. Hopefully, we'll get a guest or two. We shall see. Yes. But anyway, thank you all for watching this very much shorter episode of the podcast. But yeah, y'all have a wonderful evening.